As we head into the third night of vote counting, the margins continue to shrink in key states. Election lawsuits filed by the Trump campaign in many of those places are being rebuffed in the courts. 5 battlegrounds are still too close to call. The path to victory for Joe Biden is relatively simple. Win Pennsylvania and you win the White House. If he does not win Pennsylvania, he'll need any 2 of Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. President Trump must win Pennsylvania and then at least 3, possibly 4 of those states we just mentioned. As Biden stands 17 electoral votes away from winning the presidency. After not reporting any results yesterday, Nevada has started to submit updated totals. Biden's lead grew a bit today as new numbers came in from Clark County, home to Las Vegas. As you can see, he's up by just about 1 percentage point. In Pennsylvania, the gap is tightening down to less than 100,000 votes. The race is also narrowing in Georgia. There's now less than half a percentage point between the two. North Carolina looks better for the president as he leads by close to 1.5 points. And in Arizona, Biden is still ahead by about 2.5 points. However, his lead has been shrinking as more votes are counted. Just a few moments ago, Biden addressed reporters. He expressed confidence about his standing.
We continue to feel, Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon.
But the Trump campaign is still making its case in the courts, leaving open the possibility of a drawn-out legal battle. We still have not seen or heard from President Trump since late on election night, but he has been active on Twitter, where he's writing things like, "Stop the count and we will win." But we have heard from the president's surrogates in Nevada and lawyers in Pennsylvania. We'll have more on those cases in a moment. But first, a look at the protests that continued today. You can see here pictures from a pair of rallies in Philadelphia. One group holding signs reading, "Count every vote," the other carrying Trump signs and flags, chanting, "4 more years." Nikole Killion, Caitlin Huey-Burns, and Anita Kumar join me now. Nikole is a CBS News correspondent with the Biden campaign in Delaware. Caitlin is CBSN's political reporter following the count in Pennsylvania. Anita is a White House correspondent and associate editor for Politico. Welcome to you all. Anita, let's get right to it. A senior administration official tells our CBS News White House correspondent, Ben Tracy, that President Trump does not plan to concede if Joe Biden declares victory. Now, the expectation is that the legal fight will continue. So let's start with Nevada. We heard from former ambassador to Germany, Rick Grenell, and Matt Schlapp, a Republican activist and the husband of the White House Director of Strategic Communications. They were joined by 2 people who declined to identify themselves. What are they claiming, and what evidence did they provide to back them up?
Sure. Yes. Nevada is an interesting state because it did a couple things that the president didn't want. They sent out ballots to every voter in the state, every active voter. And that was something that the president, if you remember, tried to stop. They also are allowing ballots to come in late. So if it was postmarked by Election Day but still comes in, they'll still count it, for a certain period of time. What they're saying today is that they want to stop the count, which they are saying in many states, because the voters' rolls, the list of the eligible voters was inaccurate. They're saying that there are people that are deceased on that list, and they're also saying that there are people that moved out of the state during the pandemic this year that were on that list. And what they're essentially saying is that people voted with these mail-in ballots that were not eligible to vote in the state. They did not provide evidence of that. And in fact, when reporters that were present there asked about that, they said, "Do your job, go talk to the election officials." Well, election officials in Nevada did have a press conference or a briefing later, and they said they're unfamiliar with what the campaign is talking about. So the campaign does plan to file a lawsuit, and we'll see if it's goes the way of some of these others that have been dismissed, or if they get a chance to actually show and provide what evidence they are talking about.
Well, Caitlin, in Philadelphia, where you are, we heard from former Florida Attorney General and Trump impeachment defense lawyer Pam Bondi and Trump campaign senior advisor Corey Lewandowski. Tell us about their legal challenges.
Yes, this legal team has been on the ground in Philadelphia for a couple of days, and they're focused on a few different things. Today, at that press conference, they are focusing on the idea of having people be able to be inside the building right next to me, the convention center, where they are counting all the ballots in Philadelphia County, to be there to observe and to be within 6 feet. A judge ruled that they could do that. They are claiming that there have been issues and barriers to that. The Trump campaign is also focusing on what happens here in Pennsylvania, which is that ballots received after Election Day, as long as they are postmarked by Election Day up until tomorrow, are allowed to be counted. Remember, the state Supreme Court ruled here that a ballot received after Election Day up until Friday can still be counted as long as it's postmarked by Election Day. The Trump campaign has been taking issue with that. Remember, it was challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court kicked it back, but didn't rule out the possibility of ruling on it after the election. So if the race comes down to a very slim margin here in Pennsylvania, which it very well could, that could be the center of dispute in terms of legal challenges.
Well, Caitlin, a Pennsylvania appellate court is ordering counties to separate more ballots. What is the order? How many votes does this impact, and what parts of the state are they from?
That's right. That order is addressing this kind of thing. Going into this election, the Secretary of State advised counties to separate out ballots that were received after Election Day. But as we're watching the count, those ballots are in the total count. That Commonwealth Court decision wants to separate out ballots that allowed voters to provide a form of identification later. So what is key to watch here in Pennsylvania is the vote count itself. About 340,000 votes are left to be counted. The Secretary of State here, who is going to give a press conference later this hour with an update, has said today that they expect to finish counting at some point today. In this building next to me, where the Philadelphia County votes are being counted, about 85,000 are left to be counted there. And in Allegheny County, there's about 35,000 that will be counted. That's the area of Pittsburgh. So what we've seen today is that as the votes are being counted, the margin is shrinking. Earlier today, the president was leading by 165,000 votes. Now, at this hour, he is leading by only about 90,000 votes. So the more votes are coming in, the more that lead is shrinking, and that's why the Biden campaign has expressed confidence today in being able to pull this out here in Pennsylvania once all the votes are counted.
Well, Nikole, the Biden campaign says they are confident about their chances in the vote count, but what about the court challenges?
Well, Bob Bauer, who is the legal counsel for the Biden campaign, really has said over the last several days that as far as some of these legal challenges by the president, he feels they are without merit, that they're simply a distraction. That being said, the campaign has launched what it calls a Biden Fight Fund, their own legal defense fund, if you will, to try to counter any of these challenges if need be. But for the most part, they really aren't paying that much attention. Well, I shouldn't say paying attention to them, but they really aren't taking them too seriously, if you will. As Caitlin mentioned, they feel pretty confident in their standing. They want these votes to be counted, and they feel at the end of the day they will be victorious. So for the most part, they're ready if needed, but they hope that they don't have to deploy too many resources in the legal department.
Well, Anita, after prematurely declaring victory before all votes had been counted, we've not seen the president. When might we again?
That is a great question. We are not sure when we will. There are some people that are telling him, some advisors, that he should get out in front of the cameras, make a statement, and talk to people and express that. Obviously, you've mentioned that we're hearing a lot from him by Twitter, but not seeing him in person. There was some talk actually of him restarting his rallies again so that he could sort of influence public opinion, influence what's out there, the people that are out there while while the votes are still being counted. And none of those things have been scheduled as of yet. And every day we've seen Joe Biden sort of come out, give a brief statement, and then leave. So there's a big contrast here. What we are seeing from the Trump side of things is numerous press conferences and press calls every single day. There are some in different states, as we've mentioned before, and then they're also doing generally a couple press calls with the campaign each day. So we are hearing from their side. We just haven't seen the president, and it's really unclear when we're going to.
All right. Is this a live picture now in Philadelphia? There you see Pam Bondi addressing reporters. Let's see if we can just listen for just a moment.
Listen, guys, it's very simple here. A judge in this state issued a ruling that the Board of Elections has summarily dismissed. They believe they're above the law. So because they would not follow the law of the state of Pennsylvania, we have filed for federal relief. Let's go. That is what we're doing because we will not let the people of Pennsylvania go without having an election observer for every single ballot. What kind of ballots do you want to count? It is shameful. It is shameful that the boards of elections here in Pennsylvania thinks they do not have to listen to a judge's order. What has America come to? This judge has ordered us inside to review this process, and the Board of Elections and your sheriff said no. So what do? We go get relief by the federal government to make sure every legal vote is counted. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to continue to monitor that situation not far from where you are, Caitlin. Tell us, I don't know if they're within your line of sight there. I can't tell from your shot, but just explain for us again the context here for what we just heard from Corey Lewandowski and a little bit there from Pam Bondi.
Yeah, I believe that they're on the other side of where I am, and I could kind of hear them in my ear. But if it's what they were talking about today, they're focused on this idea of having a representative be able to watch the ballot counting inside within 6 feet. That was the judge's order. They are claiming that there have been some barriers to that. It's unclear exactly what they're talking about. We should note, however, that there have been cameras inside this convention hall watching all of these vote counters. We've been watching it on a live stream over the past 2 days. Over 150
I believe this is it,
workers have
Caitlin,
been
just so our
inside this
viewers
building.
know. This is the live stream you're talking about. Please go ahead. Forgive the interruption, Caitlin.
Great.
I just wanted to point out this looks like workers in the orange vests, Caitlin. This is what we're watching right now.
Great. I'm really glad that you showed that and are pointing it out, because that camera has been in there, and so people can see the vote process going on. And so it has been available for people to watch. There are over 150 workers inside that building working 8-hour shifts, have been working around the clock overnight. These are election workers really focused on the integrity of the election and getting those votes counted. About 85,000 votes are left to be counted here in Philadelphia. Remember, this is Philadelphia County is a county that is largely going to be favoring Joe Biden, and the Democratic campaigns have been focused on absentee voting, mail-in voting as a campaign a push to get people to vote early. So we're expecting a bulk of the votes that are collected and counted here to be in favor of Joe Biden, and that's a reason why we keep seeing that margin between the two candidates shrink as the day and hours go on here.
Yeah, Nikole, I know you have to get going. Before we let you go, what do we expect Joe Biden to be doing tonight? What's the outlook here for the next few days?
Well, again, as you heard him say this afternoon, he's just urging people to stay patient, stay calm. We do know earlier today he kind of went about business as usual, doing some of the things he was doing during the campaign. He had a briefing on the coronavirus, on the economy. His running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, was with him. So, he's just trying to continue the business of campaigning, or, hopefully he would like to be in the business of governing soon if he is victorious. So as far as the campaign is concerned, I think at this point they'll take any state that breaks their way. They continue to watch the numbers. They feel confident, whether it's Pennsylvania, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Nevada, whether it's Arizona. So again, they'll take any one once it's decided. And just like all of us, the campaign remains on pins and needles. And so again, that's why you hear the former vice president there kind of urging patience, urging calm, urging his supporters to stay the course.
All right, Nikole Killion, we are going to let you go. Thank you so much. I know you're on deadline, but we'll continue our conversation here. Caitlin, let's just keep underscoring here the importance of Pennsylvania. We saw the inside of that facility where those votes are being counted. So much scrutiny, and it really is make or break. So at this point, just remind our viewers how much is actually left, and is the time frame a bit more clear now?
That's right. Well, there are about 340,000 votes left in Pennsylvania to be counted. Those numbers are coming from the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State here is expected to give a press conference within this half hour, so coming up here shortly to give us an update on the vote count. Inside this building here in Philadelphia County, where all the votes for Philadelphia County are being counted, there are about 85,000 or so votes absentee votes left to be counted. In Allegheny County, which is another key county, which includes Pittsburgh, the counting has been done there, but there are about 35,000 votes left to be reviewed. About 29,000 of those were a part of a little bit of a discrepancy here, where there was a mailing issue and some voters were sent the wrong ballot. They had a chance to correct that. That number also includes curing ballots that maybe didn't have a date. The election officials in Allegheny County say that by law they weren't able to start rescanning some of those until Friday. So more of the vote there. So if you're kind of looking how the votes get calculated here and kind of who that may advantage, when you look at Philadelphia County, which has those outstanding votes, Allegheny County, those are some key areas to watch. The margin here, again, between Trump and Biden is Trump is leading by about 90,000 votes at this point. So you kind of add up those numbers and you can see why the Biden campaign feels confident that once the votes are counted, they can they feel confident that they'll be able to take Pennsylvania. Again, 20 electoral votes. If Biden wins here, the race is over. If that he's over, he's on that threshold. If Trump wins here, that keeps him in the game, and that's why his campaign is fighting really on every single measure. Behind me, there have been protests all day that we've been covering as well. Protesters divided by a metal barrier. On one side, supporters of the president saying that this election is being stolen. On the other side, people saying, let every vote count. That's what they are doing in this building next to us, and we'll keep an eye on those vote totals as they come in.
All right, so many fast-moving developments. Caitlin Huey-Burns and Anita Kumar, thankful that you could both be here to help break down the very latest. Appreciate it.